Hello everyone, my name is Loco and welcome to a best of 3 series of high-level StarCraft 2. It's time for a Zerg versus Protoss, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on the map Persephone. Now spotting right here in the top left-hand corner, playing with the red Zerg drones. You know him, you love him. We're looking at none other than Serral's main base. His opponent, down in the bottom left, a man I haven't been featuring all too much as of late on my channels. However, I mean, the games I did see him play recently, he's been on fire. With the blue Protoss pieces, we have Mana. This particular series was played, I think, about a month or so ago during the Pigsty Festival. I, only have very recently, like literally as of today, had access to the replay pack, so I haven't been able to cast any of the games just yet, but I've seen some absolute bangers already highlighted for me, so we're gonna go ahead and have a look at this particular series, as it was one that was recommended to me about a dozen times after the games were played. And look at that, man. Mana starting the series off strong. The only pro gamer on Persephone that actually uses the pylon indicator. There's a little hexagon that shows you where you need to put the pylon if you want to wall off perfectly. For some reason, every Protoss player under the sun believes that they can do better. They like to put the pylon over here, over there, none of them put them far enough back. Shout out to Mana already. You love to see it. Now, all jokes aside, I saw some of the games that Mana played at DreamHack Dallas, and they were honestly very, very impressive. He took some games off of very, well-respected players, right? And Mana is somebody who's been playing the game for a very long time. I think I must have seen my first Mana game back in like 2010, aka about 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, maybe 15 years. There's really no way to know when that was, but pretty recent is what I would say. But Mana has been playing this game for quite a long time, a whole lot longer than Serral has for certain, and he's always been good. There were like periods in time where I think he was actually ranked extremely highly, but there's always been these moments where he kind of has dipped below the absolute tippity top of the skill level. Right now, it seems like he's once more on the up and up, which is awesome. So obviously, facing off against Serral is always going to be a tall order. Serral, in case you're unfamiliar, widely considered to be the very best StarCraft 2 player that we've ever had. So, you know, that makes the whole game a little bit tricky. Now, what is this probe doing? Oh, Serral's star sensors are tingling. Look at that. He knew that there was a probe out on the map somewhere. He didn't know where it was, but he realized that it must have been somewhere nearby. I think that was mostly just a probe trying to get a heads up on when this third base would be acquired and whether or not it would be acquired in the first place. Now, this is Serral. He's a very macro-focused player, so I think it is quite an easy assumption to make. I'd be very surprised if Serral does something that is not a triple hedge opener, but yeah, he decides to take it here. But at the very least, the Protoss is going to be unaware. Zergling has been running all the way on the right side here of the map with all of those speed circles chained and linked to each other. He's managed to make his way across the map nice and rapidly, despite not having the metabolic boost upgrade just yet. Now, as far as strategies go, this looks very normal. First Oracle is just about to pop out, and I say first mostly because I am expecting there to be at least a second one. A lot of Protoss players have been going for, well, up to 3 generally. Some Protoss players, though, make a whole lot more than that. Very nice and early third Nexus, man. Protoss players have gotten so greedy over the years with the timing of the third Nexus. This Oracle is likely going to have to be used defensively for a little bit. I don't think you can really send this one straight across the map, but this was a Nexus build at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. 3 minutes and 30 seconds. That's insane. Back in my day, again, old man Loco here. Back in 2010, I don't remember exactly when people used to make their Nexi, but early Legacy of the Void. So 2015 is when that came out. Early Legacy of the Void. The Nexus usually was built, the third one, at about the 5-minute mark. And Protoss players have been shaving seconds off of the third base timing ever since. Now, Oracles are absolutely critical. Just having those available for sniping Zerglings here is an important task. Serral only making a handful of links here, and maybe if he would have made some more, he could have actually done some serious damage. But because of that energy recharge ability that is now on the Nexus as of, well, maybe a half year or so ago at this point in time, Protoss players have been getting even more greedy because they know they can boost that energy on the Oracle nice and quickly early on. And with a Nexus timed at 3.5 minutes, right, it's already done, 4:45. You don't really need to deal damage to the Zerg. Look at the worker counts right now. I mean, Serral's just about to finish up a big batch of drones. But worker-wise, you really don't need to deal a lot of damage. This honestly reminds me a little bit of like the triple CC opener that we see from Terran players most of the time against Zerg, where they go barracks, into factory, into third command center, and then into a starport. It's another one of those builds where you don't really need to deal any damage early on in order to go toe-to-toe with the Zerg economically. Extremely fast High Templar too, by the way. Ooh, Mana is the only one that was doing this, like, well, last time I saw him play. None of the other top-level Protoss players have been going into quick Archon drops, but yeah, Mana's always been fond of it. This is very odd. Zerg players, though, as of late, have been delaying their Roach Warrens quite a bit. Serral does have a Roach Warren, but he doesn't have any Roaches yet. At this point, it's just going to be Queens and Zerglings, and the Archon will obviously be able to, well, eat those units for breakfast, as long as the Prism doesn't fall, obviously. You really cannot afford losing a Prism with 2 Archons inside of it. That would be an absolute disaster. Decides to warp in a bunch of Zealots, too. We have Storm on the back of this, Charge on the back of this, too. That means that there is no blink, right? So this is a little bit different than what we normally see from Protoss players on the early game follow-up. Snatches those Zealots again, and really, I think what he's trying to do is just force as much unit production here out of the Zerg player as possible. Zealots are going to be left behind, it seems, and the Archons get to go home. With Charge, though, I think you guys get to try and see if you can maybe snipe a bunch of workers. I really like this opener here from Mana. Yeah. Even though most of the top dogs, they're going, well, triple Oracle into like a pretty quick third Nexus at about 345, 350 or so, and then into, well, good old Blink, and then maybe Charge, sometimes into Colossus, sometimes into Storm. That is the gold standard for a long time. We've been seeing a bit more variety as of late, right? So not just the quick Tempest opener, the 2-base Tempest shenanigans, but then also Archon drops like this. I think they have a lot of potential. Still, though, you have to be careful here as a Protoss player. You cannot afford losing these units. Okay. And if you look at the supply count right now, sure, worker-wise, Mana is fine. 68 versus 66. Serral, however, is preparing to go for a big attack. Double Immortal production. Ooh. I didn't actually notice we had 2 Robo facilities already. So he's got Storm, and he does have 2 Robo facilities. He's got Charge almost done. I mean, this is going to be a tough hold. Serral is sending in the ladies, too. We have a grand march of Overlords heading across the map. And Serral is just about, well, to cut the head off the snake, right? I mean, Mana has been playing a very cheeky, I guess we can call this early mid-game. And I wonder if he's been getting a little bit too creative here. Because this is an attack that's going to hit like an absolute truck. Supply count is not going to deceive us. Let's see. Immortals, though, are obviously a phenomenal weapon of choice. And there's a ton of micro potential as well in this army. There's the first Storm going down. Ooh, one of the Robo facilities currently unpowered. That is unfortunate. I thought that this pylon was going to be within range. Good snipe right there by the finisher, who's just doubling down on Roaches for now. Mana playing this extremely safely, trying to make as many Immortals as he can. Now warping in a bunch of Stalkers, too. The Zealots, in the meantime, by the way, did die on the other side of the map. Great Storm right there. Ooh, by the Polish Protoss player. These Zerg units are all looking very low HP. And even though the supply count is still deceiving us a little bit, I think he's actually fine. Masterful hold so far here by Mana. Imagine if that extra Robo facility was also working. Careful. Okay, snatches the low HP units there. Make sure the Immortals can fire for as long as possible. We do have some nice corrosive balls going down as well by Serral, but the Prism juggling has been really good. Now the Zerg army, though, decides to shove forward. We have creep tumors over here, right? And those creep tumors allow the Zerg player here to jump this army a lot more easily. Man, killing the Cybercore would have actually been really good for Serral. Sometimes you can kind of easily forget about it, but you do need a Cybercore in order to make Stalkers. Okay. And now suddenly, yeah, the army size difference is not even remotely as bad. As a matter of fact, you'd imagine that, relatively speaking, this should go way better here for the Protoss player moving forward. Because previously the Zerg army in supply was like twice as big. Now it's only like, maybe 50% as big. Or 50% bigger, I guess I should say. Serral decides to double down, look at that. Going into Tunneling Claws, going into Burrow. He still has that beautiful highway. If you look at the mini-map, there's just creep guiding the entire Zerg army straight across the map. He's following this up now too with Dropper Lords. So he's adding mobility to these Zerg units. Mana, though, is on the prowl. He doesn't have any easy detection, but what he does have is just an awful lot of firepower. My god, what a fight. Honestly, beautiful hold right there by Mana. We've seen those sort of games before, and it goes horribly wrong because Protoss loses their Prism or whatever. It can become an absolute disaster. Now, we did have a small group of the Roaches, about 12 or so of them, split off from the main pack, and they were going to start working on some of the pylons here, making it difficult for Mana to actually reinforce these units on the other side of the map. But Mana, he is thinking that he might just be able to finish this game with his army that he's got here right now. One thing that he doesn't have here right now, though, is an Observer. So the creep is still going to be a massive benefactor here for Serral, who is slowly working away at the main base of the Protoss player. A bunch of Stalkers go to the third base. The rest of the Protoss army, most importantly those Immortals, are still working on the main units over here. The juggling continues. Nice pickups right here by our Protoss player, trying to keep these very important troops alive. Roaches, in the meantime, have made their way down to the low ground as well. Mana is killing a ton of drones. Or probes, or Serral Runner is killing a ton of probes on the other side of the map. Yeah, the fact that the pylons have been killed here, look at the supply, and look at the resources that Mana has. Mana could warp in an awful lot of units. He could warp in, like, I don't know, 8 freaking Archons at this point, but he doesn't have the, okay, there we go. He doesn't have the gateway production to really pull that off. Immortals are still awkwardly being produced. What about the army over here, though? Looks like Mana just managed to snipe the third hatchery of the Zerg. You know, sees a bunch of the drones and the Roaches coming in from the high ground, and he decides to recall his army all the way back home. Could he have kept going? I think because of the amount of money he's got in the bank, Mana felt pressure to go back. He's remaking a Stargate, which I think is kind of cool. This is one of those few scenarios where I think, yeah, actually making Void Rays would be phenomenal. It's a bit awkward to say Void Rays and phenomenal in the same sentence, because they are considered to be one of the worst units in the game. Well, what about this? One Immortal goes down. Second Immortal not living up to his name. What about the other one? Oh, Bile's connecting too. Great snipes right there by Serral, who just got like 3 or 4 Immortals just like that. Void Ray production indeed will begin. And this game is not over yet. Serral's got to go in and finish up that Cyber Core 2. Looks like another Immortal. Misrallied a little bit, although the shield battery can apparently just barely reach. Probes are still falling. We have the Prism, in the meantime, going across with 1 High Templar inside of it. Roaches have now marched straight into the base. Storm drops to add insult to injury, cutting off the retreat path. Forces a bunch of Zealots there into the engagement too. In the meantime, I mean, this is a turtled up position. I don't think Serral's going to be able to break it. There's no detection nearby, though, so it means that, yep, for now, Burrow is going to save those workers in the top right-hand corner. Dude, what a game. What a game to start this series off. This is beautiful. I think, though, across the board, Mana is in a better position, and we did just now see that mistake, right, with the Immortals. Those Immortals going down over there, that was a very big blunder. If we would have had an additional 3 Immortals here in the mix, I mean, this game would be pretty much impossible for the Zerg. We still have continued Immortal production though, and we do also have that Void Ray now up in the air. The Void Ray, if anything, just showing it here to the Zerg shows to Serral that he needs to make some form of anti-air. Be it Queens, be it Hydras, be it whatever, but he can't really stick around anymore. My god, when was that made? Ooh, that was that the Oracle from the early game? Yeah, that is the Oracle from the early game. So the Zealots here just now ended up killing the Spore Crawler, which opened up the opportunity for this unit to swoop back in. 18 confirmed kills on the Oracle. I have no idea where this guy was for the majority of the fights. Kind of feel like we could have actually, used it in some of the prior engagements too to prevent some of the creep from being this far forward. Either way, Mana once more. Feels like he can actually move out onto the map. Serral calls GG. And Mana is leading the series 1-0. Alrighty, next up, we find ourselves on Tokamak. Now that is a scoreboard that I don't believe a lot of people would have expected in game number 2. Myself included, for what it's worth. Brilliant game right there by Mana. I like the timing of the third Nexus. I like the overall unit control. I think the micro was excellent. Prism micro was absolutely critical, right? So it's super flimsy. Most of the Protoss, well, most of the StarCraft 2 strategies in general are very flimsy, but especially when you're effectively trying to macro at home and then also microing a Prism with your two most precious units inside of it, right? Like, it's extremely risky. And if you lose the Prism with two troops inside of it, it's basically game over immediately. But Mana, he, stood his ground and he recognized exactly the opportunities that he had. The only really big blunder was those Immortals going down. I think the Immortals going down was a bit silly. I also think he should have had that Oracle in the main army when he pushed across the map. I did see the Oracle snipe a bunch of Ravagers during the game, but I don't really know where it was when he first marched through the middle of the map. I think he left a little bit too much creep behind. Either having an Observer there, which I think he could have had, and also actually that mispositioned pylon for the second Robo facility, the forward Robo facility. I think that also could have been better. And if possible, I would have liked to see a third Storm with the first big engagement, because I think he only had like 2 High Templar, even though he did already finish Side Storm, which felt a little flimsy. All of this, though, is very minor, and I'm mostly just thinking out loud here. I'm sure Mana has put everything to the test, and he's come up with this perfect setup. But a really cool style for sure. Sometimes, you know, I see the argument that people make that the meta in StarCraft 2 grows stale, or that the game is just kind of like the same every time, and, you know, that maybe some of the build orders are just not unique anymore and all the rest of it. And I can kind of see that argument, but we do still see progression over time. If you watch StarCraft 2 every day, maybe the progression for the build orders is not that noticeable, but we do see players shaving seconds off of their builds here and there, and it really does add up over time. If you compare the builds that we see in 2025 compared to the ones that we had an exact year ago, the strategies are very different. I mean, unless you zoom out and you only look at like he's making roaches and the other guy's making stalkers, it's the same build, right? Like, if you look at it from that level, sure, then everything is identical. But if you look at any of the details, yeah, we have certainly got a lot of changes. Anyways, it's going to be a Stargate start here once again for Mana, who now has an opportunity to obtain the victory 2-0 over Serral. Now, I don't know if that's ever happened for Mana. I don't really want to spoil myself, but I can quickly look up their historical results. I'll just have to be careful and make sure that I don't see the results for this particular series. So Aligalek actually keeps track of every single tournament series that has been played in StarCraft 2 after a certain time frame. But I think it may include actually, like, maybe they've imported a lot of data or something from, like, the very earliest StarCraft events. So I can actually search Serral and then Mana and look at their historic results. I don't remember the last time that we've seen... So not looking at this particular series... Okay, yeah, not looking at this particular series, Mana has played, I want to guess, about 20 series against Serral in total, and he's never won a single one. Yeah, it's a little demoralizing. The results are actually kind of insane. They've played against each other since 2016, and as far as I can tell, Mana has never won a series against Serral. Not including this one, though, so maybe this is his day to strike. Maybe this is his opportunity. Serral has that record against a lot of players, though. Nice little bit of control here on that Stalker, but I don't really love the way that this Stalker... Oh my god, what? Bro, Mana just looped up that Stalker before it left the gateway. Okay, it still dies in the end. But those Zerglings could not... Ay, ay, ay. That was a slippery unit right there. You see that? That's crazy. Okay, once more. Templar Archives on the back of this. Third Nexus is finished up nice and early once more. 2 Zerglings for a Stalker. Not the end of the world for Protoss, but not really the start you want to have. Yeah, for what it's worth, I have never personally lost against Serral. So, you know. Mana has apparently lost maybe about 20 times or so against Serral in series. I personally, never. Ooh, Serral going quick. Quick Nomatized Carapace. Lair coming up too. So I think we are just about to send the ladies in a private jet to watch the other side of the map. So Mana is going for a basically identical strat. Serral is mixing it up. Serral making a lot more Zerglings at this phase in the game. It's going to force those units back home. I would imagine at the very least, because otherwise the third Nexus itself is going to die. A couple of depths did shade forward. My real question is, though, what will happen when the entirety of the Zerg army goes across the map? Careful with that prism. This can't be a strategy that Serral has played against a whole lot of times. But he's making adjustments. Nice little bit of juggling still, though. 7 probes did fall. That's unfortunate. I think 7 probes going down like that is a bit unlucky. Here we go. So this looks mostly like the same build from the previous game, but it seems a lot quicker to me. So Serral actually just manually stopped commanding those overlords to create a highway once more straight through the middle of the map. I thought we were going to send the queens in a private jet. Not what the plan is. Okay. Yeah, it looks to me like he wants to try and see if he can knock down the rocks. The surprise, though, has been spoiled. Mana can now see this army coming in from a mile away. He's only got 1 High Templar this time around. Okay, he's warping in 2 more. I think that's good. Storm is about... we would love to see a chrono boost on that. Storm is not yet available. Yo, can we please chrono that? Ha! It's not going to be done in time. Okay, now we start chronoing it. But this army is already knocking on the front door. 10 seconds, man. That takes a long time. We are going to see some storms here landed eventually. The Zerglings, by the way, waiting off to the side. They're going to swoop in as soon as the storms are gone. Did we just lose all the Templar? Oh, yeah, no way. Ah. Small mistakes right here, made by our Polish legend. And immediately Serral, I mean, he strikes when the iron is hot. Next up, we find ourselves on the map Ley Lines. I wasn't really paying very close attention to the strategies there of both players in the previous match, but it seemed to me that Serral did certainly make some adjustments, and Mana was not prepared for it at all. I don't know if Serral was just gonna make the assumption there. Like, there are certain assumptions you make, right, when you play a game of StarCraft 2. I don't know if he just assumed we were gonna see the exact same build from Mana again, or if he had some sort of telltale sign. I guess in the worst case scenario, when you don't see the Archon drop, you've committed into Pneumatized Carapace, which, you know, is not free, but it's still a very handy upgrade to have around anyway. So he did obviously make he did make the Overlord speed nice and quickly. Either way, Mana right there, morphing in the 2 additional High Templar into an Archon in a pinch, and then he must have lost the other High Templar that did have energy right before the Storm upgrade finished up. It was all just a little bit clumsy. And Serral is not really somebody who is known to hesitate, right? When he sees an opportunity, he will grab it immediately. Now we find ourselves on the map Ley Lines. So, final game in this best of 3. If we have Mana playing like he did in game number 1, I'm a believer. If he plays like he did in game number 2, I really don't think you stand much of a chance against Serral. That is one of the things, by the way, that makes Serral extremely dangerous. This is a theme that we've seen, well, in many years now. So Serral has been fantastic at StarCraft 2 since 2018. 2018 is when Serral really... clicked all of the puzzle pieces together. He's very flexible in his inflexibility, if that makes any sense. So, like, he will play the same strategy pretty much every single time, or at least broadly speaking, the same strategy every single time. These days, he's a bit more creative than he used to be, but if he notices that the opponent is going for something that he hasn't played against a whole lot, it doesn't take him a lot of time to make small adjustments to his pretty rigid build order that will just absolutely shut those sort of strats down. So, like, rarely do we ever see Serral drop 2 games back-to-back against the same strategy. Especially the build that Mana went for in the previous 2 games. It is quite predictable, right? And the timing attacks, they're not particularly sharp. It's not like it's all culminating in, like, one big attack that hits at, like, minute 8. Unlike, for example, the Stalker with the Blink Opener, right, that we see quite a lot after Oracles. you know that Protoss is going to come across the map. With the strategy that Mana was playing in the first 2 games, I mean, he came across the map with the Oracles, and then he came across the map with the Archons, but there wasn't like one big timing push that he was really trying to catch the Zerg player off guard with. Well, for now at least we have a very similar start once more. Will we see a 3.5 minute third Nexus? Looks like we may be heading on over towards the base here already again with the probe. Nice and early. Look at this. This is the type of adjustment I'm talking about. It looks like it's nothing. It looks like it's absolutely irrelevant. But already, Serral is making tiny adjustments. He's recognized that the timing of the third base has been too quick, and he's made a few additional packs of Zerglings. In the first game, he had like 6 links at this point in the game. Now he's got 10. Don't know if the 10 can really achieve much, but at the very least, he's going to put on some pressure. And this is the type of snowball effect that can really make the game more painful. Now the Oracle can't really go across the map very easily. I mean, he can pull it off if he wants to, but then suddenly the Zerglings will swoop back in. Small adjustments that ultimately do keep the Zerg player pretty safe here. Because what is Serral doing on the back of this? Well, it's just droning. He's being even more greedy. Look at that. No Spore Crawler over at the third. No Spore Crawler in the main. No Spore Crawler in the natural. So Mana after game number 1 and 2, he's doing the exact same build again. Serral made an extra group of Zerglings slightly earlier, got the block off on the third Nexus, showed his opponent 10 Zerglings, and now he's cutting corners by skipping the Spore Crawlers and just droning up. He's only seen a single Oracle in game number 1 and 2. There's only a single one in game number 3. We once more have Templar Archives nice and quickly, Gateway 2, 3, and 4 coming up. Prism on the back of this too, so we're once more going into Archon juggling. Remember how in the first game I tried to point out the worker counts? At 48 workers, when Mana was sitting at 48 probes, Serral was also sitting at 48 drones. Now suddenly, what has changed? Like broadly speaking, what has changed? Really nothing. Serral has just been able to play his opponent like a fiddle here, because it's become predictable. Now suddenly Serral is finding himself, well, at least at that point in time, with like a 10 worker advantage, and he can already start going into the roach production sooner. This would have been very risky against a more conventional opener from Protoss. So like triple Oracle into Blink Stalker. This is the type of stuff that can really hurt you. But it's these small adjustments that I think make Serral so freaking dangerous. Like his builds are pretty rigid, but he does make adjustments when he feels like he can get away with it. So game number 1 was kind of like the feeler match, right? We're trying to feel out what the Protoss is doing. Game number 2, we slammed it down immediately. Game number 3, we go for a more refined approach, it looks like. Here are the Archons again. Remember how in game number 1, Serral we had no roaches out. He had 0 roaches when the Archons first got across the map. Now he's done making drones, and he's got 12 of them already. Overlord speed once more coming up. Roach speed, I mean, it's about 3/4 of the way done. Mana did not go Storm this time around, so he is making adjustments. We have a single Robo Facility 2 this time around, rather than the double Robo, but it's all because this is quite early. This attack here for Serral. Now, this is nice. Good catch by Mana. Grabs himself 2 queens, it seems. No. Yes, no? Okay, we do get 2. Don't lose the Archon. Okay, he loses 1 Archon. Oof. Unfortunate, but he did kill 2 queens with it. It is going to make this defense, though, a little bit more difficult to pull off. Blink coming up together with the +1 ground. Is there enough for Mana to actually hold on against this? Oracle still working away. Nice cancel by Serral. I mean, this army here for Zerg is looking freaking huge. Absolutely massive compared to that of the Protoss player. Nice corrosive balls there as well to pop the force fields. 1 queen has shown up here. It's not a lot of anti-air, but it's better than nothing. An extra immortal did just pop out. Prism, of course, is still around, though, and those immortals are working away at whatever they can. 4 immortals is still not to be underestimated. They're just slowly grinding through every single one of those roaches. This Prism, man, is the absolute MVP. That Prism. The most valuable Prism, obviously. MVP. Most valuable Protoss? Anyway, that Prism has been worth its weight in gold as it's actually mainly responsible, it seems, for the defense. Great control right here by Mana. Ooh, Serral swoops back in. This reminds me of that moment in game number 1. Okay. He does have one of the Immortals there saved, although I think one of them did fall. Storm now coming up on the back of this. Interesting deviation here from Mana. So Mana, predicting the play here from Serral, decided to delay Storm in favor of additional robo production, in favor of a faster blink. Okay. Ooh. Oh, he loses the prism. He loses the prism. I don't know if Serral noticed. There's a good chance that Serral right at that point in time backed up to do a couple queen ejects. Yeah, he put down a Spire. I don't think Serral saw. He could have... I think he could have tried to be a little bit more aggressive here without a prism. This army is way more flimsy. Okay. Either way, I do quite like the Spire. So the Spire is going to allow him to make mutas here. Just like 8 mutas. Maybe 6 mutas. Whatever. Like a handful of mutas into these bases. Not only can you obviously snipe the probes, but you can also snipe the prism. And again, without the prism, this army for Protoss is not nearly as beefy. Still, we're talking 6 Immortals right now. It's a lot of Immortals. Serral, by the way, only had 57 workers. So he's only on 57 drones. This is starting to become an all-in for the Zerg. 10 mutas. Keep in mind that Storm and Blink is still a pretty good answer against mutas. So even though Mana has absolutely no defense in his base and he's got no clue about the Spire, he is still gonna have, if he, well, plays his cards right, he's still gonna have an answer. What about this Oracle? Can we see it? Can we see it? Okay, he sees it now. He's gonna have to pay for that with its life, but at the very least, this is gonna give him a bit of a heads up that something could be fishy. Can we please make, there we go, a photon cannon. Photon cannon in every mineral line is absolutely critical. Serral now knows that he's been spotted. And this is commitment right now from the Zerg. He is making a handful of drones here and there, and he's actually saturating the gases at the 4th before making any drones for the minerals. This is a major indicator here for Serral that he is doubling down on mutas. So Serral taking a page out of Dark's book here. Dark may be off to the military right now, but Serral is doubling down on mass muta production as he's... What? He's proxy hatching? No way. Serral is proxy hatching. I don't think I've ever seen him proxy hatch. Huh. Okay. Well, that little Oracle, though, that one Oracle that died, has been instrumental in this game. Now Mana is actually finding himself in a much more playable position. Things were looking kind of dire for him, but I don't really mind this spot all too much. Although I think most of this game will be decided by the next big clash between these armies. Look at the Immortal count. Holy crap. We have 10 Immortals. There's 20 Roaches. 20 Roaches and 10 Immortals? Spoiler alert, the Immortals will win that fight. That's a lot of units here. Ay, ay, ay. Mana's actually going to send them out. He's going to send them out. Storms alone are apparently enough to try and deal with the mutas. Serral decides to go in for the counterattack. He still hasn't added a lot of workers into the mix. Mutas are going to try and target fire down whatever static defense they can find. Okay, gets one of the... Okay, gets 2 of the Phoenixes there. Nice catch. Fired up the +2 air weapons too. At this point, Mana should have clicked on one of the flying units and recognized that this is indeed going to be mass muta play. Corruptors added into the mix mostly just to shut down any Phoenixes. I quite like that. Oh, still though, Serral's now maxed. He has stolen a base all the way in the top left-hand corner. Mana doesn't know about it at all. So Mana's game plan here, by the way, is just to try and sit back and max out. And he's nearly there. Like, this is generally the scariest moment for Protoss, right? When you're being punched in the face 17 times like he is right here. Mana has had troubles navigating this spot in the game, but I mean, he is now at 170 supply, which I like way better than when Protoss at this point is sitting at like, you know, 110 or so. I think 170 is way more comfortable. His economy is fine, his upgrades are pretty good. Yeah, and the opponent is still playing mass muta. Serral's doubling down, by the way, still making more mutas. There is this weird moment where mutas do get countered by... Like, early on, right? Mutas get countered by Stalkers and Storm. But generally, later on, Mutas can actually kill everything so fast that Protoss doesn't have an easy answer. And one scary thing about Mutas too is that mana never actually really needs to fight those units straight up if Serral doesn't want it. So Serral can always just counterattack and never actually engage against the units. Still though, here goes to Protoss. This is his opportunity to try and win a game and a series against the man who's considered to be the greatest StarCraft 2 player of all time. He's left most of the army out on the map. Observer was brought in this time around. Upon realizing, though, that it's only a partial Protoss army that got recalled, Serral decides to commit now with essentially everything that he's got. We have the Protoss player. Look at the Immortals, man. When the Immortals turn their guns onto the hatch, it will fall in just about a second. Nexus, in the meantime, is being worked at as well. Another hatchery, though, is falling. Serral's also working on the Nexus a little bit further south. But remember the freaking proxy base. Serral's adding on dozens of additional Mutalisks. He is going just Muta into more Muta. He has 32 of them available right now. Drones are scattered all over the map. And in a base race scenario, you pretty much always favor the Zerg. They're just more mobile, and they basically always have a lot more map control. The Corruptors that were made to counter the Phoenixes are going to use whatever ability they can as well. This time around, it'll be the Caustic Spray to try and kill the Nexus. Part of the Protoss army has gone back home, but Mana does not know about the Proxy hatch. Look at his vision. He's never seen this base in the top left-hand corner, and Serral has been mining it for a good couple minutes at this point. Serral's not known for this type of playstyle at all. He's not known to play mass Muta into, well, proxy expansions. Look at that. He's building another one in the far bottom right. Serral mixing it up, man, in 2025, and I love it. He's always been known as this macro Zerg who just kind of like overpowers the opponent, but he is also capable of playing a very different approach. And my god, look at this. 2 control groups of Mutas meet. We have 37 of those bad boys, and I think with the Storms out of the equation here, I don't see any Archels anywhere at all. The Stalkers are just going to die. GG gets cold. What a game of StarCraft that was. Not the playstyle. Not the playstyle you expect from Serral whatsoever, but that was absolutely brilliant. Oh, so game number 1. We had a build order that Serral evidently was not prepared against at all. He almost won, but Mana played a little bit better across the board. Game number 2, we saw a couple of blunders there from Mana playing the exact same strategy a second time. Game number 3, he mixed it up a little bit, right? So he delayed the Storm research into a faster blink instead. And then in the meantime, Serral transitioned towards Mutas and that proxy hatch. I think game number 3 really could have gone either way. But Serral out-strategizing his opponent, he obtains the victory. Well, honestly, very well done.